Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's video. This is your old pal CHH. You're watching Planet CHH, and I've got Wes, formerly the artist formerly known as the Creepy Kentuckian, or are we still going by the Creepy Kentuckian?
I mean, call me whatever you want to.
I feel like Wes is what I start to hear people say more now.
Possibly, I don't know. I mean, I always introduce myself as the creepy Kentuckian, but it's whatever anybody wants to call me. I mean, I'm not that pretentious. Who cares, really? Creepy Kentuckian, oddly enough, was just my AOL IM screen
You're
name.
showing your age, Wes.
Yeah. I mean, that's where that name came from. Though I had that name for probably like 4 or 5 years before we ever did the show.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting. Just the creepy Kentuckian. Let's go with that.
Just really quick, is say behind underneath your Jason Part 5, is that a CED down there?
No, I think that's like a picture frame. Turn it
Okay.
around on the opposite. Yeah, I do not have a CED at all. That's one format I didn't get into.
Yeah. They look
I've
terrible.
I've seen them in stores before, like in half price books and stuff like that. Not any of the really cool ones where I would have bought those,
Right,
but
right. Okay.
Officer and a Gentleman and stuff like that. They got plenty of those.
I don't know if you're like me, but a lot of times when I do videos or watch videos, either I love to look at the backgrounds, and because that's how I can tell if I like somebody or not. Is that a weird thing to say? Like
No,
I can
no,
tell if I can tell if
for
like,
sure.
okay, this guy's cool. I'm looking at the back. Well, I see you got your vinyl set up back there. Looks, is that is that the He-Man castle?
It is. I found that. That's $1, a Goodwill find
That's
from
so
back in the
cool.
day for $1.
That is so cool.
And then we met Harvey Stevens, I think is his name, the guy that played
I'm here. Just
Damien in The Omen. Uh, he's a really funny guy. I don't think he does many conventions anymore or anything, but he was drunk off his ass one night, and had him film a brief video insulting Uncle Bill. So that's a cherished memory.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So for you, if you may not be familiar, I think a lot of you probably are, but if you're not, Wes is from Dead Pit Radio, and I've interviewed both Wes and Uncle Bill about the formation, the rise of Dead Pit Radio. They went away for a while, they're back, and they basically inspired a lot of people that do YouTube now. And the funny thing is, the domino effect. People that inspired me to do YouTube, come to find out, well, they were inspired by Dead Pit. So it's really cool to kind of get to know these guys and work with them a little bit and have fun. I mean, those Vinegar Syndrome shows are literally the highlight of the month. My wife asks me like, "Why? It's always loud when you do this. What do you?" I said, "Well, we're bitching about this company that we end up buying movies from," and she's like, "Why?" I was like, you wouldn't understand."
It's just kind of, yeah, it's how we do it, I guess.
But yeah, guys, Dead Pit Radio, please sub to him on YouTube. Check it out. I'll put their link and everything. And you can see Wes is a pro. He's got his channel name on his like WWF. Those things are so cool. It's funny because when I saw you have that, I was like, fuck, why didn't I think? I can't do it now because I'm ripping you off. But it's such a clever, cool thing. And yeah, I love that.
And very cheap too. You can get these things from China for like nothing. Go on Temu, and yeah, they're like $3 shipped.
That's so cool. So is that embroidered on there, or did you put like a black sticker over it?
It's a decal. Like we have 3 different colors, right? So if
Oh,
it's Halloween, we can do that's supposed to be orange. I don't think you can really
it
tell.
looks white from the camera.
And then the Vinegar Syndrome shows yellow, and then just the classic green and
Okay. Very,
black.
very cool. So speaking of getting stuff made in China, today we're talking about Vestron Video, Wes, and I thought this would be really fun. I want to talk about, so this all started because I got the last month's Horror Hound. I was reading it, and it was so interesting because they had this incredible spread. I don't remember what page it was on, but there was this insane spread all about Vestron and the VHS company. And I read Charlie Band's book on Vestron, and what really got me on that was the partnership that they had. And even though Charlie got big advance, so the story goes, when he was doing Empire, he worked with Vestron to put out all these movies on VHS, which is where they made tons of money.
Mm-hmm.
But Charlie talked about how I think Vestron actually hosed Charlie on this, which is maybe deserved because God knows Charlie has done a few crooked things. That's no.
Just
I
a
love.
few.
He's the Paul Heyman of the movie world, and I love him for that.
His
But
warehouse is gigantic.
he's got a gigantic warehouse where he's finding wizard video boxes from the
Right.
early 80s. But I think Charlie actually got host on the deal because Vestron would pay him advances for their movies, flat advances. Like, boom, this is what we're paying. I guess advance isn't really the word for it, but he would pay him for a certain title. Let's say it was like 1.5 mil or 2 mil for Reanimator on VHS. He just had to promote it to a certain level and put it out in theaters regionally for 2 or 3 months. It wasn't a big thing. And then these VHSs would come out, and Vestron was killing it. I mean, hand over fist money. It was insanity. And it's sad to see, how companies like that, the bigger they are, it seems like the harder they fall. And I think you actually told me this. Vestron got into the movie business at a certain point, and I didn't realize what this big title at the time was the Patrick Swayze movie. I forget the name of it.
Yeah, Dirty Dancing. That was like their biggest title, I think. And that was a Vestron Pictures release as well.
Right.
So it was released in theaters under Vestron. And then the next year on video was the biggest VHS seller that entire year, I think, for anything.
It had to have been.
So, and Vestron was $89.99 a piece for these videotapes. So they were not $20 or whatever they became a few years after the fact.
So do you remember when you were little? Like, was that how a lot of back in the day? This did sell through pricing not really not a thing yet? Was these people just rented? Like when you were a little kid, did they just rent tapes? You didn't buy them because they were so expensive.
Yeah, they were very expensive to purchase. I think when my family got a VHS player around 1987, 1988, it was, rental stores. It was the mom and pop rental stores. Blockbuster probably wasn't even a thing at that point, or at least it wasn't nationwide. And I know one of the deals when my dad got the VCR, and the VCR was like $1,000 or whatever they were when they came out. The crazy expensive,
Ridiculous prices.
The deal was at this rental store is you purchase the VCR through us, you get one free movie rental a year. So that's kind of how they tried selling things. But I think the VHS stores were the ones that were primarily buying these titles for rent. I think that's how it works. But there were, I think there were some big retail chains in bigger cities. Suncoast was one of the very early ones that I remember going in and seeing the prices on these movies. In particular, like some wrestling tapes. Back when I was like 9 or 10 years old, I wanted to get WrestleMania 2 on VHS, but it was like $79.99 or whatever the hell it was. And I was like, holy, yeah, there's no way. But I mean, that's how much they were at that point. I think it probably wasn't until the Batman and some of the big summer blockbuster movies that came out that I think Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade was another one that was like $20 when it came out.
Yeah.
But yeah, most of these other releases until those big summer movies where they could sell like, I guess, just a ton more at that price. You're looking at, 60, 70, 80, $90 a piece.
So when do you remember seeing, I mean, when you're little, do you pay attention at all to maybe subconsciously you start seeing Vestron pictures, Vestron video, that sort of thing on tapes? Do you remember seeing a lot of that stuff when you were little?
I didn't really pay attention to the labels or anything, but the first movie that I can recall that was a Vestron release that was epic when I was a kid, because this thing was never available to rent. It was always rented out. And I grabbed it here for you guys. The Monster Squad, the original Vestron release for this thing. Now, this movie was not a big success when it came out in theaters or anything. It kind of took a few years for it to catch on. And I think in a lot of ways, it didn't catch on that much until the DVD came out.
Right.
A lot of people had still never seen it. I think Garrett had mentioned that he had never seen the Monster Squad as a kid or anything until that DVD came out. But this movie was pretty much impossible to find for years and years and years, because it wasn't until like 2007, I think, is when the DVD came out. More people could check it out that way. But This tape still goes for a pretty penny, I think 60, 70, 80 bucks.
Now, aren't there a few different Vestron video like logos? Like there's one that's like the digital looking line V, and then there's one that's kind of like a rounder look, right? Which one does that one have on it?
The Ghoulies. Let's see. This one has the just the
See, yeah,
standard
that's
Vestron
kind of like
video.
the that's what I'm thinking. That's like it's almost like like a circle, right? Like
Yeah.
yeah,
And then the one you're talking about, I guess this is like the first logo possibly, was the old Vestron video line V
yeah,
logo.
that's what I'm used to.
And there were a couple of other ones, but yeah. Vestron, I think that's the only two that I see on the ones that I have. But Vestron Motion Pictures, and they were around pretty hardcore for about 10 straight years. They're from the early 80s to the early 90s. And the video store thing, it was a boom at that time period. I think, like you said before, Charles Band, they were working together, and Wizard Video and stuff like that. They were amongst the first two big companies to, come out with all these different releases in the early 80s starting out.
Yeah, what was so cool, and what we're gonna look at, we're gonna basically what we're gonna do with this video, guys, we're gonna look at some of Wes's VHS tapes he has from Vestron because they're such a they're out. They basically go through their. If you guys see this episode of Horror Hound on the shelves, like I said, they go through this entire spread on Vestron, showing every title that they put out. And one of the things I love about this, Wes, do you remember seeing any of? And this had to be what made them stand out pretty good back in the day. Is the video store paraphernalia that they would make? Uh,
Yes.
One of the most famous ones to me has got to be the Ghoulie toilet blow up thing that they would hang. So, do you remember seeing any of that stuff back in the day?
I don't really. I don't recall. I don't know if they sent that out to these little shops in Appalachia. Probably not. I think I remember seeing some of the Friday the 13th stuff, like but that wasn't Vestron, but stuff like that. I can't really recall in particular any Vestron stuff though.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm a little younger than you, so like I was a Blockbuster kid. There was a mom and pop store, but this was 95, 96 when I would frequent it.
Yeah.
So I don't even think Vestron was a thing, but like none of this cool paraphernalia stuff I ever really saw. Video store standees every now and again. Like I remember there was a gigantic, oddly enough, it was kind of funny and messed up. There was a big Titanic thing where you could win like for the 97 movie
Oh
where like you
God.
pulled out something and filled something out, you could win a cruise. Because I remember my mom actually grabbed one of it out. I'm like, isn't that a little fucked up?
Yeah. I don't
But
remember that, but yeah, that is kind of messed up.
well, I mean, it's interesting when I look back, and of course, whenever people watch this, if somebody can give me some information on this, it's so basically Vestron started out kind of like the way these companies, these boutique labels are now. They don't really make movies; they they get the license for them and they put them out, and that was the way they operated for the majority
Hmm.
of their cycle. But it was kind of different too because home video was. I almost wonder if some of these companies didn't know if home video was really going to be a thing. And that's why they didn't put out some of these titles in the beginning of VHS's life.
Well, there were a lot more smaller independent film studios as well that were kind of, you know, getting independent investors and everything. So most of these
Yeah, that's true.
movies
That's true.
weren't, big studio pictures or anything either. So there's a lot more of that at that point in time. And, I mean, it was the 80s. So there were, and Vestron, even though they did primarily horror, they did a little bit of everything. And a lot of people kind of complain about the collector series because they're not doing all horror Blu-rays or whatever. And I'm like, well, they didn't do all horror back in the day either. So, cult movies, they did some really mainstream stuff that people don't realize, like we mentioned Dirty Dancing before
I was
as well.
surprised by that. I didn't realize that.
I think Platoon was another one that they did.
Yeah. They did the making of Michael Jackson's Thriller, and I got to imagine that was probably a pretty big seller for
Yeah. Oh, no
Vestron.
doubt. No doubt. But yeah, I mean, as far as some other covers, though, one of the other big covers that I remember that's actually better than that the movie, there's two different versions of this though. And I didn't know if you realize this or
Maybe a
not.
few movies like that.
This is the unrated one. So there was the R-rated version as well, which I think was in red. Marty majored in cutting classmates.
Oh man, that's
Slaughter.
a now Wes. Do you remember? And what kind? Just because I'm nerdy, what kind of Vestron logo is on that one? I just love all that kind of
It's
stuff.
the same one that the Monster Squad was.
Okay, cool. What year
Yeah.
was Slaughter High? Was that 84, 5?
80, yeah, 85, 86, something like that, I think. And that was another one, man, when I guess it was the Blu-ray that they did for Slaughter High. That one, that was the first time that thing had a decent home video release since the VHS days. I know they did like a crappy
6-pack horror thing from
yeah,
Walmart you can get.
looked awful and everything. So but yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff that Vestron had come out with on the Blu-ray were also releases that they had done back in the day, which is pretty damn cool, I think.
I remember watching that for the first time. I kept saying to myself, "There's something oddly familiar about this." Then I got offline. I got done watching it, and I watched it, and I realized that was Manfredini who
Right.
did the music. I was like, the whole time I watched, like, there's so I feel like I've seen this,
I
but I
know,
know I
man.
haven't.
I love Harry Manfredini, but Jesus Christ, all
He-
his stuff sounds
He's,
exactly the same.
he's the ACDC of music.
It's like the Hills Have Eyes Part 2, the one that he did the score for that, the Wes Craven one.
Yeah.
It's like you're watching Friday the 13th, like a really, really bad Friday the 13th movie.
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I remember when that came out. I honestly wouldn't be surprised, Wes. I don't know if you could say or not, but I almost wouldn't be surprised if that VHS looks better than the DVD that came out in that multi-pack. Because to me, it looked like somebody put a camera in front of a TV and filmed it. That's how bad that DVD looked.
What they had said at the time, I don't know if you remember this, is that the original source material for the movie was gone. They couldn't. I mean, I don't know if it was lost at that point in time. So they used like a VHS master for that DVD. And I don't know what happened. We'll have to ask Felcher. But yeah, I mean, that's what they had said. And it was the same studio too, which is kind of weird. I think Lionsgate did that as well. But another one I grabbed here that's also part of the Vestron DVD
Incredible.
line is The Gate. And I love this simple artwork here. It's the same logo and everything. But yeah, this is another one that still goes for pretty damn good money. And it's a gateway horror movie as a kid too for me because I was big into movies like The Goonies and Stand By Me and stuff like that. And The Gate is along the same lines, but it does have some very terrifying stuff in it. I remember I used to tell the story to my best friend growing up about a construction worker being buried in the walls of my house. And I stole it directly from The Gate. And he believed that for years and years and years. And I was like, dude, have you seen The Gate? And he was like, yeah. That's where I was just fucking with you, man.
Yeah, I remember watching that for the first time. I got the DVD used at an FYA in 2006 or something, and it was the DVD had that artwork. Where this was before that DVD where they re-released it and they put crap on it. It was like bluish colored, and it was like a cartoon looking. It was a shitty. Yeah, so I remember watching it. I remember thinking at first, this is okay, but like halfway through the movie, it's like it goes from a PG-13 movie to an R-rated movie just because it gets scary. And I was like, holy shit. And I remember my friend was watching with me. He had to leave and he's like, this movie sucks. And I remember telling him, no, dude, it got crazy. And I remember saying, I think dude comes out of the wall. There's a giant like monster thing that you saw on the ground. He's like, no, there's not. I'm like, I swear to God. But I can understand why he would think I'm lying because the first half it's not bad, but it's just like kind of slow. And then it just goes crazy in the second half.
But yeah, they showed that on HBO back in the day. I think that's where I initially saw it. But yeah, I mean, that's a killer. Like, I just get a big nostalgia trip every time I watch that movie at this point. But yeah, great stop motion effects and everything. And it's just a lot of fun. But yeah, that was another one that evidently was a Vestron release. I don't know where I got all these. That's what I was thinking today. I was like, because you asked about Vestron VHS tapes, and I was like, I'm sure I've got some. But some of these I have no idea where the hell I Like this one, I love the movie and everything, but I don't know where the hell I got it, and it's in
Yeah.
really, really great condition too.
You know, it's crazy. You talking earlier about like titles that Vestron put out. When you look at the list of some of this stuff, it's wild because of where they are on physical media today. Like for instance, Last House on the Left was a Vestron title. Life Force. That's the one. One's with Arrow now. One's with Scream Factory.
Hmm.
And speaking of other stuff you're talking about, like or just kind of rare tapes. I didn't know this because this artwork is different. I'll see if I can bring it up really close to the screen. The Mutilator.
The Mutilator.
I've never seen that because, dude, the Blu-ray poster art. That's not what that is, Wes. She had a blue bikini, and because I'm a horn dog, I know it was a blue bikini, not a
Yeah,
green one.
that is a little bit different in it.
Yeah, I've never seen that before.
See, I didn't. There's a few of those tapes that I never saw as a kid. Like that's one of them. I didn't even know what the hell the Mutilator was until many years later. Last House on the Left, I don't think I ever saw that tape for rent either. Another non-genre one that's very interesting that I wanted to bring up because I always kind of liked this movie. It's not a great movie, but it's never received a DVD release or anything, and it has to be music rights or something. And that is Joan Jett, Michael J. Fox.
Michael Fox, Light of
Yeah,
Day. I got the
Light
vinyl
of
for that. It's a
Day.
great soundtrack too.
Yeah, I love the music, and it's a good movie. It's like a drama or
Yeah, let me
whatever.
make you bigger so people can see that because that's not something people see every day.
Yeah, and
That's so cool. It's a
I
hidden film.
I don't know why nobody has ever brought this thing out on anything. So the VHS is the last physical release of this, and it's from like 1985.
Yeah,
So maybe someday, I don't know. That's like a Kino title or something, possibly.
I would love that. I really would. It's got to be music. A lot. You know, and it's not like it was the same artist like Trick or Treat. You know, which I've just had a conversation with Garrett all about that, and half the questions were, all right, well, just go. You have to talk to Wes about that. You have to talk to Wes. He may know. He may know.
Yeah.
That's not stuff we can probably talk about publicly. So
The I think the title song is written by Bruce Springsteen, so that might
yeah,
be an issue.
it could
Um,
be. It could be.
I mean, to me, you would think it would have to be something like that because
Yeah.
it should have been out.
And you know, nowadays some of these artists are selling their publishing outright. They'll get offers for like I think D. Snyder sold Twisted Sisters publishing for I don't know, it was like $500 or $600 million.
Holy shit!
So once that happens, some of these people may not want to fork up the money to you know, it just gets messier when all that kind of stuff happens.
Hmm.
You know, all these bands that, you know, grunge killed, all of them are selling their catalogs now for they can eat whatever they want every day, spend whatever they want, and they'll never run out of money. So,
I got you another one though. This is an
see.
obscure one that again I have no idea where I got this. I don't know if you've ever seen this movie. Ed Neal and Marilyn Burns from Texas Chainsaw Massacre did this in 1985.
I don't
It's
know
a
if I have.
very, very weird movie, sci-fi sort of futuristic deal. Future Kill.
I just saw that in the book, and I was like, "What is that? I've never heard of this. You
Yeah.
have to tell me about
The
this."
biggest claim to fame for this movie, that was a very low budget independent movie, is H.R. Giger. They commissioned him to do the cover art.
That is gorgeous.
And a lot of people think the cover art's the best thing about the movie. I mean, it's very weird. Um, it's very similar to like what's the movie? Mandy. You remember the movie Mandy? It's kind of like that, maybe
Yeah.
even more bizarre. Um, but yeah, Marilyn Burns, like the big hop was it was the cast of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think it was made in Austin, Texas. Um, but yeah, that was the big selling point for it. This one only received like a very small DVD release, and I think it's kind of valuable at this point. So that'd be another title that one of these studios, I'm sure at some point will re-release, and maybe people will find it again. It's worth a watch for sure.
Do you have any indication on what production company made that, or who? Or I mean, I don't know if you've asked Felsher about that title before.
I have not. I think one of the studios overseas may have done a DVD for it not too
Okay.
awful long ago.
Eh,
but I could find out
Let
probably.
me ask you this, Wes, because I think this is something you can at least kind of give a little bit of insight on. So, look, here's the deal. I'm looking at, let's just say I'm not really privy, and obviously doing YouTube and talking to people like you and watching Dead Pit shows with Michael Felsher. It's like, I think somebody can look at this and say, okay, yeah, here's all the Vestron titles. Why aren't they putting this out? Why aren't they putting out Scream? Where's Tentacle? Where's Squirm? Where's Rodan? Why aren't they putting Pieces out? Vestron videos, VHS days, it's not the same as, and we'll talk. I want to talk briefly at the end of this about the new Vestron that we have.
Yeah.
This is apples and oranges. What Vestron Video Collectors Series really means is Lionsgate
Hmm.
in a general sense, right? This is not the same kind of Vestron that we're talking about from the 80s. This was a company that was getting licenses from companies to put these movies out, as opposed to here's what's in the Lionsgate vault, and Vestron was acquired under this company, and then that company went under, and then Lionsgate bought that company, and it was a trickle down
Right.
effect. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to make that clear to people because I think that's something people may kind of get confused about. These are not really the same. I mean, it is, but it's not the same.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
it was
apples and oranges.
swallowed up by one company, and then another company took it, and then I think it was Artisan at one point, and then Lionsgate took over Artisan.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of these movies too, like the Vestron Collector Series titles, a lot of them are, go all the way back to the Vestron video days, but some of them don't. I mean, they just kind of throw some stuff, out there that's, I think Maximum Overdrive was one that really didn't have any sort of lineage, but it really still works,
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
they're just using the name.
yeah. It's cool because I remember when I was looking through these pages, there was the whatever, what was it called? I can't really read that movie you're just talking about.
Future Kill.
Future Kill. And it definitely grabbed my attention because I was like, that is, I mean, it was giving me some sort of class of 1999 vibe, which I love that poster and that movie, quite frankly.
Yeah, there was a DVD label that was a precursor to Vinegar Syndrome called Subversive Cinema, I think was the name of it.
Yeah.
And they did the DVD of it in the US. They did a lot of, like, to me, that would be, of course, it would be expensive to try to do a really good video on it and get all these titles because they're pretty collectible now. But
Yeah.
they did a lot of very underground stuff, probably 15 years before Vinegar Syndrome was around.
Wow.
Limited edition stuff and slip covers and everything. But yeah, I think that they were one of the, this was probably 2002, 2003.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they were one of those companies that kind of got lost in the shuffle. There's so many around that time period.
Incredible. Well, what else we got?
Scream. You brought
Speaking
it
of
up.
Scream, yeah, let me make you big for this.
This is one.
Talk about
Dude,
that, man.
Oh my God. Do not get this confused with the Wes Craven movie. It's not as good. It's really not. Have you ever seen this?
Yeah, I have the 4K of it.
Oh man. You bought the 4K of it. You poor son of a bitch.
I know, right?
This God. This is one of the most boring
It is.
slasher movies I think that I've ever seen. The cover's great.
It is
You're like,
great.
oh, it's. And I remember hearing about it years and years ago, and I was excited. I was like, oh, I'm never. And then I think that I scored this VHS tape, and I was like, and the VHS tape is way worse than even like the Blu-ray and the 4K because the transfer is so damn bad you can't see anything hardly on it at all.
Oh man.
But yeah, this is one of the worst. But it's got a cool story to it. The fact that it was Scream before Scream.
Right.
And the artwork is cool and everything. And I always, for a few years there, I was trying to collect those 80s slasher movies on video.
Is that where you getting these? Like, were you just kind of hopping around stores and flea markets and stuff trying to find these VHS tapes? You don't strike me as the kind of guy that would pay. And I mean no disrespect, but you don't strike me as the kind of guy that would actually pay a lot of money for VHS tapes.
No, this was before they were actually worth quite a bit. Like, have you ever seen the Wizard Video Texas Chainsaw tape that I got? The OG.
I don't know if you've showed it to me, but that is I consider that a holy grail tape. Absolutely.
$25 back in the day.
Oh my God. What are we talking back in the day? 2006, 5, 4?
No, probably like 2009, 2010.
Oh wow.
But yeah, I mean, the tapes weren't really going for crazy amounts up until probably the last, what would you say, 8 or 9 years?
Yeah, people have kind of ruined it. Like, because I used to look, same thing with Laserdisc, Wes. Like, I was buying them around 2010, 11, and getting Friday the 13th Part 4 for $20.
Yeah.
Now it's like insane. All that stuff. I always say, this is what happens, Wes. Somebody goes on eBay and says, I need Halloween 4 on VHS. I need it. I don't want to wait. So I'm just going to buy it for $30 because that's what this guy's asking. Whatever. And then what happens? Everything goes up because
Right.
it's a trickle effect.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's happened with everything, and I just don't like it. And this VHS grading, I think, is ridiculous.
Oh, it is. But you can take advantage of it though,
You
man. Like
can.
I go to Goodwill's quite a bit and I will find some of these tapes and dude, like really I wish I could
Probably too, huh?
I could go back in time, I wish, on some of these because I'd find like new old stock of like a CBS Fox tape of some sort. And this has happened before where I'm like, oh, it's sealed. It's in pretty good shape. $35 shipped, right? Literally 10 seconds after it's on there, boom, it's gone.
Yeah.
So I'm like, fuck.
Well, you say that if you find one of those tapes, if it's an actual movie with like a cult following and stuff, if you do grade it, as ridiculous as it sounds, I guess there are people out there, and I use the term people loosely, that will spend $1,000 to get a level 9 sealed, what have you,
Yeah.
Twister. I don't know. It just comes to mind because there's a new movie coming out. But like, I don't know. To me, it takes the fun out of it. I assume you're like me. You like to go out and about sometimes and not really look for anything, but just kind of browse and find the cool shit when you're not looking for it. That's how I roll. I remember finding a Town That Dreaded Sundown tape, one of the original tapes, not that Good Times bullshit or whatever happened in the 90s. Like an original tape. I was like, oh, that's so cool for 50 cents. Like, that's what's way more fun to me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the thing is like, and people are always like, how in the hell do you find all this shit at Goodwill? 90% of the time, you're not going to find anything. The key to the Goodwill is you got to keep going. Just go on a regular basis. You'll eventually find stuff. Me and Uncle Bill over the years, man, like crazy tapes. Uncle Bill found a whole lot of movie novelization books back in the day that I still think about. Halloween novelizations, Friday the 13th. I found a Friday the 13th one myself. Those things go for big money too.
Yeah.
I keep all that shit. I'm not selling that shit. But if I find a sealed VHS of Baby Boom or something like that some dummy will pay $35 for.
Look Who's Talking sealed, $60.
Right.
Anyway, what else we got, man?
Well, let's see here. We were talking the Ghoulies earlier. I've got
Yeah.
all three Ghoulies movies, which I
love
don't
me
think
some Ghoulies.
I don't think the fourth one ever came out on video. And I'm looking forward to the 4K of part 2. I love part 2.
Yeah.
Some people on our Discord was like talking shit about part 2. I'm like, dude, I'm serious. I freaking love Ghoulies 2.
Now, real quick, just nerdy question. So those both the circular Vestron logos, or both of those have the digital V's?
No, I'll hold them all three up here. They don't really.
Oh, you got college.
Yeah. They don't really all go together, right? One of them is the V, and the other two is the classic Vestron.
That's so cool. Can we see the Ghoulies 3? Because people love Ghoulies. People like the artwork for that so much. Look at that.
I did hear that we may be getting this one on the Vestron Collector Series at some point in the near future on Blu-ray. So
That'd be great.
Cool.
I mean, look, it's ridiculous, right? All of a sudden, they're twice the size. They're talking. They're in college. Matthew Lillard's in this movie. But Wes, I mean, if you had to guess, because I don't know who you could talk to about this, or if anybody, like, I don't even know if Charles Band would know. You have to imagine Ghoulies 2 probably is in the top 5 or 10, I would imagine, of the horror VHSs sold from Vestron. The way they promoted that movie, I have to imagine it was a gigantic hit on home video for them.
Oh, you would think so. I mean, the kids love that sort of thing, and then I mean, even the parents too. Like, I don't know how anybody could not love. Like, I love all those Ghoulies movies. I don't
Yeah.
really recall the fourth one, to be honest with you, but the first three. I mean, you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with those.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
Some other ones though, real quick here. This one was a collector series one. Chud 2.
Oh man,
Bud
sealed.
the Chud. Now, this is one of those where they kind of repackaged. Back in the day, they had like a resealer or something, but
That's
it's
gorgeous.
very sun faded.
Isn't that kind of
you
cool
could
though?
tell.
So that was in a mom and pop store by the window where the Kentucky heat was blasting.
Probably, yeah. And this one too, man. This cover right here is iconic. If you were a child of the '80s, the Troll
Oh my
VHS
God.
cover.
Look at that.
Yeah, I always love that artwork there.
John Bugler, Harry Potter. Everything was ripped off from Troll.
I always thought the little blonde-headed girl was creepier than shit too.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That is gorgeous. Any cool pictures on the back of that one?
You've got. Let's see.
Oh, okay.
It's a little bit blurry, but there you go.
That's yeah. I'm sure that was a big hit for them too.
And this is one of Uncle Bill's favorites too, Blood Diner.
That thing is sun beaten to death.
Yeah. I don't know what the hell happened to this one though, man. Look at the side of that.
Yeah. Wow.
And then the other side is just total. Like, I don't know. I don't know what the hell happened to it.
Do you remember where that one came from or no?
I don't. I think that I probably got this at like the flea market because around like the mid 2000s, the flea market was a solid place to just grab movies. Like, they were like $5 for $1 or something like that, crazy cheap.
Right.
And this is probably where, because I wouldn't have bought one in this condition on eBay or anything. But yeah, this one's been through some battles, it looks like.
Yeah, that is. It almost, is there a top on that, or can you stick the VHS out of the top and the bottom?
No, there's a top.
Okay, I guess because it was black and there was no art on the top, I thought maybe like it was completely cut on the top so you could push the tape up.
I'm not sure what happened. It's almost like they cut the box and then made like a side for it again or something. I have no idea.
Look at it's almost one color on the front. It's just like this like kind of pukish blue.
And then the tapes themselves, Vestron tapes, were infamous for this thing to just, it was glued on there and it would, so I've got this one
Gotta tape it down.
taped because yeah, they're all like that. I think you have to be careful when you open these things up because that label will go flying on there. And pieces.
Oh man.
You don't have to go to Texas for a chainsaw massacre.
That sounds like the perfect teaser trailer voice.
Yeah, see, this one already came off. It's just like pieces is written on there.
Now, did that happen to you and you wrote that, or you bought it like that?
No, it was bought like that.
And this was early 80s. This is probably during the early. Okay, so I'm going to assume that Vestron's initial early logo was, in fact, I call it the digital V. I don't know what else to call it, but I'm assuming that was the early run, the early image of Vestron, so to speak. And then it evolved to that kind of spherical kind of.
Yeah, this has got copyright 1984 Vestron Incorporated.
But the movie came out before then. So,
right.
That,
Yeah. That was the Vestron release. The movie was what, 82, I think?
It had to have been. That movie ain't getting made in 1984. There's just no way.
Some other random ones that I don't know if I've ever seen this movie, but I remember the cover.
Let's see.
Death Warmed Up.
Oh, Severin has that movie out right now. I haven't purchased it, but I've always wanted to because of the artwork. I think it's really cool art.
Yeah, it is pretty cool artwork. But yeah, this one looks like it's been through a war too. And Soul Survivor.
I remember looking at that in the book, and I was like, "What the hell is that?" I have no idea what that's about.
I have seen it, but it's been. Uh-oh, we're getting an interruption, bulls.
What happened? Oh my God! Uncle Bill!
Uncle Bill. I heard somebody, and I was like, "Who the hell is that?"
That is so fun. I wasn't expecting that.
But I was showing him some Vestron tapes.
People are gonna laugh at that.
Soul Survivor. Yeah,
So you said you watched that movie.
I've seen it, but I think it was one of those deals where did we review that back in the day, like a Code Red DVD or something?
Yeah, we did actually.
Yeah, so I mean it's okay. I don't really remember it being that great or anything.
Right.
And that's about all that I've got.
Now, Wes, have you seen this? This movie always grabbed my attention. The artwork. It's called "Too Scared to Scream." Right there. I don't know if you know anything about that or if you had that. I was kind of hoping you did, but I didn't expect you to because it's. I've never heard anybody talk about "Too Scared to Scream." Does that even ring a bell to you?
Too Scared to Scream. I don't think I've ever seen that one.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I'm hoping it's not one of those cases where it's incredible art and it's just a piece of trash. Like for instance, like Wacko. I know Vinegar Syndrome put out Wacko.
Wacko. That's a classic.
You know, but yeah, I mean they've got such a cool catalog of movies, and you're right. When you look into it, they did put out a lot of stuff that wasn't it wasn't just horror. As a matter of fact, I want to say they put out what's that big movie, that Western with Emilio Estevez and everybody, Young Guns, I think it's called. That
I think they did do Young Guns.
I have it, and I remember being like, oh wow, that's Vestron. So so yeah, they obviously Vestron was they certainly were on top of the world for a number of years. And I guess just kind of to wrap this up just for a few minutes if we can, you know, when they came back, I think one of the things that people noticed was the price points on them were kind of high.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, did you think of them as being high, or was that kind of in the ballpark of what things were kind of at?
I thought they were pretty high when the initial releases. What were they, around $35 or so when they came out?
Especially if you went to like FYE to grab. I remember I wasn't really using Amazon at the time, so I don't know if it would have done me any better, but I remember like it took me 2 or 3 trips to finally suck it up and grab Return of the Living Dead 3 because it was basically I could get this movie and not grab anything else because then I was going to spend $100 at the store.
Some of those movies are easier than others, though. Like Return of the Living Dead 3, everybody loves that movie. Maximum Overdrive, The Gate, stuff like that. You're asking people to pay $35 for Parents and Layer the White Worm. Come on, man. Like, I mean, those I still haven't picked up. But I think when they did their revival, they took like a couple of years off from COVID and everything.
Yeah.
And they started pricing these at $10, $15. I mean, we'll pick them all, you know, anything that they release at that price for sure.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing I think that's so cool. It's just like at the price point that they're selling them at now. And I vocally at first gave some of these other companies shit saying, if Vestron's charging this price, why are all you other people doing this and that? And people kind of wise me up. And I knew this, but I didn't. I was like, well, the license fee to get these movies. But even then, I understand that, but I still wonder, you know, if these companies could, like, if Scream Factory could charge less, or if Arrow Video really could charge less.
Oh, you know, Scream Factory could, but they're not going to. They're going to try to figure out a way to charge more.
Yeah, that's true. Is there anything Vestron hasn't done yet that when you did your research, without even really talking to Michael, just knowing, okay, this is where this movie came from, was absorbed. Is there anything that you are excited to see or hope that they can do soon?
I think they're working on, I don't know if it's a Vestron release, but the Blair Witch Project, the 25th anniversary, I think is one that they're working on right now. That Lionsgate's doing.
I think the director even hinted online saying, hey, because there was a thread that kind of got some traction just about the movie, and the director was like, hey guys, stay tuned this year for.
No, I think Felcher, I mean, he probably don't want me saying this, but they were recording like interviews and stuff at that Horror Hound show.
There you go. Well, people probably, I don't know if people would know about that if it was a public interviews like in the convention or if it was a behind the scenes thing, but you said it. So.
Yeah. Now, that'll be probably this fall, I guess. But Light of Day, man, that would be a big one for me. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
if they still own the rights for it or whatever, but that would be one that I would love to, have come out at some point in the near future.
And real quick, I just want to get your thoughts on they're obviously trying to I shouldn't say obviously trying to. They are re-releasing some of their titles on Steelbooks. Do you think this was a calculated move because they're noticing the craze that Steelbook? I mean, we talk about Best Buy leaving and going out of business, all this kind of stuff, but I mean, Wes, you probably noticed some of those Best Buy Steelbooks. I mean, if you didn't pre-order them online, you weren't going to see them in the store. So clearly, there is a niche market that goes crazy for these Steelbooks. Do you think that's why that's why they've kind of gotten to that avenue a little bit, re-releasing a lot of their titles like that?
Yeah, with Best Buy and everything ending, their specialty, steel books and everything. It's kind of like they're trying to, get that market, I guess, that used to go to Best Buy. I think Walmart's starting to do a lot more steel books.
Yeah,
The Walmart over here, we have a little tiny, it's not even a super center. They have a little steel book section. It's so weird.
yeah.
But yeah, they're definitely trying to get that, that marketed, that crowd of people.
And the only other thing I want to ask you is the only thing I haven't seen Vestron really do yet is like a box set, like a legitimate, like kind of box set. Do you think that's something I can't exactly tell you what it would be
Mhm.
because it's I don't know if there's really any room for something like that in the catalog. Or do you
Yeah.
think they would ever do something like a volume one and go back and put out a box set, maybe you know what I'm saying? Kind of like Full Moon does. They'll put like Puppet Master trunks out and so do you think that's something they could ever do or
I don't think that they'll do that just because they had a good opportunity with that Silent Night, Deadly Night set, and they didn't really do it. They just released, them all in one disc. Well, I think it was on three different discs, but I mean, it was in one
one little case?
standard case.
Yeah. Same thing with Wishmaster.
Yeah, I just can't see them, and they would have done that on either one of those. I don't know what else. Children of the Corn box set or something like it, maybe. But I don't think that you would. I don't know. I don't think that they would go all out for Children of the Corn or Amityville or something like that. The Howling sequels.
Yeah, they present. I feel like Vestron is a boutique small label, but they present themselves in a way that is not really boutique in the sense that they're putting out cool movies, little niche movies, but they're just putting them out like Paramount or Warner Brothers would. Slipcase, boom, and just call it a day with that. And I'm assuming that they'd have to do that to keep these price points down, but I mean,
Yeah.
have you been happy with the Vestron Collector Series? Is there anything you would change?
No, I think that they've done a pretty good job. I mean, I just really wish that whenever it started, they would have been more competitive with the price. Um, Not really sure why they were, it was $35 for some of these titles, man. That was, I don't know. I think that they really started hitting their stride whenever they got the price point down to, $10, $15. And, but yeah, the look and everything, the transfers on all these, fantastic. And I like that they revived the name. They own the name. I think it was a good opportunity to run with it. And the only thing that I'm kind of surprised about is they don't have any like more of an online presence for the label, like an Instagram page, a Facebook group page, something like that, where it is a bigger company, I guess, right? So they don't have that person that can run like the Instagram page or
Yeah,
whatever.
I'm sure they could hire somebody. I mean, God knows this social media crap. I mean, they should be on. I agree, they should be on TikTok and all that stuff because they can just get I don't know how many thousands of eyeballs on it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely agree with that. And the last question before we wrap up, give people what do you think or kind of two or three of you think the sleeper releases for Vestron that are good movies, but maybe they're, you've got your chopping malls, you've got your Waxwork and Return of the Living Dead 3. But what do you think are some of the few, whether they're early ones or kind of later ones that are like, hey, don't sleep on this one? Because I know when they started doing a little non-horror stuff,
Hmm.
people are kind of like, ugh.
You talking about just the The Blu-ray releases,
Yeah,
right?
from their catalog, the Blu-ray releases. Because for me, I think one of the sleeper great ones. I shouldn't say it's a sleeper, but when they did My Best Friend is a Vampire, I was telling people, no, 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 this is actually a really funny
Mhm.
movie. Grab it. It's actually really, because I think horror comedies, people kind of just like, I don't know.
Well, one that I still need to pick up, but it's a great movie. I think I watched it on Vudu a couple of years ago. Is Blue Steel. That was one of their more recent ones
Sensational movie.
that they did. And Blood Diner is one that we'll always sing the praises to. It's just such a wacky, goofy movie that is made by somebody that is legitimate nuts. I mean, I don't know if I'll get in trouble for saying that, but she is crazier than shit. Jackie Kong. What's another one? We'll go with Chud too, Bud the Chud, just because they had the balls to bring that thing out on Blu-ray.
Right? And
It's so great.
I love Chud too, quite frankly, maybe more than Chud, because it's, to me, I heard a rumor. I don't know if you heard this. I heard a rumor that was a potential Return of the Living Dead 2 movie.
I had heard something about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know that Cynthia Garris was the one that did the Bud the Chud theme song?
No,
Mick
I did not.
Garris's wife.
That's why are
That's
they
some
both
weird trivia for
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
I
She
didn't
wrote that song.
Oh man. So yeah, I think Vestron. I love Vestron. I think whenever people bring up Vestron, the collector series, it's always usually they're happy about it because the price point and everything's so cool. I still think there's a lot of titles that I say should do, but as I learn from hearing your interviews on Dead Pit with Michael Felcher, which I implore people to check those out, because I don't know. I kind of read between the lines with Felcher. Whenever you guys ask him a question where you know he can't answer it, I stare at those eyes because I'm trying to see if he knows something. And I'm not going to speculate here,
Right.
but they're great videos. So guys, check out on Dead Pit the interviews with Michael Felcher. And if you don't know who that is, Red Shirt Pictures, and he basically, Wes, correct me if I'm wrong, anything that we see special feature wise on Vestron Video is his doing.
Pretty much, yeah. I think that they've only worked with him, and he has done all kinds of stuff. If you go over to his website, all the way back to like 2007, 2008, working on special features on hundreds of different releases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's really cool. I'll never forget seeing him on the making of Friday the 13th Part 5, the Paramount DVD. That was the first time I ever saw Michael Felcher. He was funny in that. So, guys, this was the retrospective, the rise and fall and rise of Vestron Video. If you have any cool memories about your Vestron tapes, please drop them down below. Hope you guys enjoyed that. We want to thank Wes from Dead Pit Radio for hopping on, man, and showing me some of your cool tapes, because I don't have a lot of those. I really don't have any. Like I said, the only Vestron tapes I kind of have are like Young Guns and stuff like that. So it's cool to actually see. It's cool to actually see some Vestron tapes.
Cool. No problem, man. It's fun talking about this sort of thing. And I grew up in this era, so very nostalgic for me to go through some of these titles.
There you have it. So, guys, like I said, Wes from Dead Pit Radio. Check those guys out on YouTube and Instagram. If you search Dead Pit Radio, you should find them on all the socials. So, thank you guys for watching this video. This is Real Pal CHH, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care. Huge, giant thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Without you guys, this would not be possible. To get behind-the-scenes photos, videos, music, private live streams, and much more, you can subscribe to my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. Thank you to my patrons.